At my reception, I told my aunt that her son had to leave. I said it once in a steady voice. He had cornered my husband's youngest sister near a side door and scared her so badly that her hands shook. He was not confused. He had been told to stop, and he did not stop. The staff opened the exit. He argued. They took his arm. He went outside with my aunt shouting behind him. I did not feel bad. I felt clear. My name is Aaron. I am 41 now, but this happened when I was 30. I work in project coordination for a local utility company. I like lists, timelines, and rules that apply to everyone in the room. I grew up with a family story that did not match that. On my mother's side, most problems were blamed on stress, or a long day, or a bad mood, and one person was protected from the results of his own choices. That person was my cousin Brandon. He is my Aunt Linda's son. Since we were children, my aunt has defended him from consequences. She calls it love. It has never looked like love to the people near him. When we were 9, Brandon took a handful of bills from the fundraiser jar in his classroom. The teacher saw the cash missing and called home. My aunt wrote a long letter about how shaming children causes harm. The school sent the letter back with a short note about rules. The money returned. Brandon did not say sorry to the class. He told me on the bus that the teacher had overreacted. I remember the way he smiled when he said it. He liked that word. It would be his shield for the next 20 years. In middle school, he shoved a smaller kid into a row of lockers. The kid cried. Brandon got detention. My aunt complained to the principal and said the other boy had provoked him with a look. She said Brandon was being singled out. The principal reduced the detention to a warning because the term was almost over and he did not want the trouble. The smaller kid moved away the next year. At Thanksgiving, my aunt joked that Brandon had won. It stuck with me. She treated every event like a game where keeping him comfortable was the only score. High school gave Brandon new ways to avoid lines. He took his girlfriend's old car without asking and scraped the side on a curb. My aunt told the girl's parents it was a misunderstanding. She paid the repair. He shoplifted cologne and a watch with 2 friends. The police called his house and offered a simple path: return the items and do a small community class. My aunt asked to handle it privately. He wrote a short letter that said nothing. He laughed about it later with his friends. I watched and learned what the adults in our house would allow. Brandon grew up. The excuses grew with him. He had 3 children with 2 women by the time he was 30. He paid child support when a court order made him pay. He worked sales for a while and then quit because the manager was on his back. He worked landscaping for a while and quit because the foreman had it out for him. He dated women for a few months at a time and then told us they were crazy when they wanted him to show up as a partner. He went on long rants about haters. He used the word jealous a lot. My aunt repeated those words and turned them into a family chant. The pattern at gatherings was always the same. If he got loud or crossed a line, my aunt would say, "Don't make a scene." If he offended someone, she would say, "It was a joke." If someone pushed back, she would say, "You're too sensitive." If he was asked to leave, which happened once at a barbecue after he argued with the host's wife and called her names, my aunt cried so hard in the driveway that the host apologized to her. She gained control by being the saddest person in the yard. People gave in because it was easier. I kept my distance. I went to large events and left early. I did not go to small dinners. I did not invite him to anything I hosted. I knew that if I set a rule, my aunt would push it by calling my mother, then call me, then call my mother again until someone caved. When Adam and I set a date, my first planning meeting at the venue included a clear ask. If any guest made someone uncomfortable and refused to stop, I wanted that guest removed without debate in the room. The manager said they trained staff for that. I gave the name I was worried about. She said she would brief her team. My aunt began to lobby as soon as the invitations went out. First, she asked if Brandon could bring a date to keep him grounded. I said no. Then she said he had changed. She said he was in a better place. She said I should give him a fresh start. I reminded her of my condition, one complaint, and he would be asked to leave. She said that was harsh. She called my mother and said I was unforgiving. My mother asked me to be flexible. I told her this was the most flexible I would be. I wrote my rule in a message so I would not second-guess myself later. The ceremony was small and kind. The reception was warm and busy. The air had that mix of food and flowers and too many conversations at once. For hours it was fine. Then I heard a sound that did not fit, like a glass striking a wall, and the room shifted. People turned their heads. I saw Mia, my husband's youngest sister, near the side door with water down the front of her dress. She is 19. Years earlier, a classmate had cornered her in a hallway at school, and since then, she avoids pressuring crowds. She wears what makes her feel safe. That night, she wore a soft shawl. Brandon stood in front of her, too close, with his hands out like he was explaining something. Karen, my other sister-in-law, was already stepping between them. My father-in-law was moving from the next table. The manager looked at me. I nodded. Later, I learned the exact words. Brandon had told Mia she was too pretty to be hiding under that thing, meaning her shawl. He told her she was wasting her face. He reached toward her shoulder like he was going to pull the fabric aside to see her hair. She said no and told him not to touch her. He told her to relax. She threw the water. That was the right choice for her in that moment. The old story about compliments does not apply when someone is not free to walk away. My father-in-law told Brandon to leave. Brandon said he was joking. My aunt appeared and said he meant no harm. She said Mia was overreacting. Then she said we were humiliating her son at a family event. That word again, humiliating. The harm was his, but the humiliation, in her view, was ours for naming it. I put my arm around Mia, made sure Karen was between her and him, and asked the manager to escort him out. The staff came fast because we had planned for this. My father-in-law repeated his request. Brandon refused. The staff took his arm. My aunt grabbed his other arm and told them they could not remove her son. They kept moving. He went out the door. My aunt turned on me. She said I was disrespecting family. She said I was making a scene. She said this would follow us forever. My mother tried to help her by calling the whole thing a misunderstanding. She said Mia was young and might have misread the moment. I looked at Mia shaking and I said the thing I had held back for years. I told my aunt that Brandon had scared someone and that this was not a debate. I told her that she had spent decades excusing him and that I would not do it for one more minute. I told her she could leave with him if she wanted. She stormed out. My parents gave me one of their old looks that used to make me feel 12. It faded in the new light. The room was quiet, then moved again. People checked on Mia. The band started up. We cut the cake. I watched the door. He did not come back. The next day, my phone filled with messages. My aunt wrote that I had broken her heart. She said I had ruined her memory of my wedding. My parents said I should have handled it more gently. They asked me to call Linda and apologize for how I spoke. Some cousins told me I had gone nuclear. Others who had been near the side door sent short notes that said thank you. I did not reply to the loud messages. I sat at the table with Adam, made breakfast, and wrote the facts on a page so I would not let anyone twist them. On day 3, I sent one message to my parents, my aunt, and my uncle. I wrote that Brandon had scared Mia, that he had reached toward her clothing after she told him to stop, and that he had refused to leave until the staff escorted him out. I wrote that I would not host any event where he was present. I wrote that if anyone defended him or tried to blame Mia, they would not be welcome in my home. I wrote that I would not argue about this and would not read long messages trying to convince me that his behavior was a joke. Then I turned off my phone for the afternoon and sat on the couch with Adam, because calm is a decision you have to keep making. Mia shook for days. She slept at our place for 2 nights with Karen on the sofa. We cleared our week. We cooked food she liked. We watched a show with slow scenes. Mia spoke in small sentences and then quieted. She had a counselor she trusted and scheduled an extra session. She told me later that my saying "he leaves now" helped more than any speech could have. Simple actions are steady ground. My aunt did not slow down. She called my mother daily and told her that I had used family tragedy against her. She meant the fact that her daughter had gone no contact 5 years earlier after a different fight about Brandon at a reunion. I had said at the reception that her daughter left because she was tired of being last in her mother's choices. My aunt called that using a wound as a weapon. My mother repeated those words to me. I said I was done with that circle. I blocked my aunt's number. Then the facts started to catch up with the story. A week later, my uncle called my father and told him Brandon had been asked to leave a job site 2 days before our wedding because he would not stop commenting on a coworker's body. He had been warned twice already. He said the foreman hated him. The foreman said he hated the comments. My father repeated this to my mother, and she went quiet for the first time. A week after that, a friend of a friend sent my mother a short video from a bar. It showed Brandon with his hand on a server's lower back while she tried to step away. The bartender told him to stop. He laughed. The bouncer came over. The clip ended with him being walked out. It was not dramatic. It was clear. My mother forwarded the clip to me with a single line, "I believe you." I stared at the words for a long time. I did not reply "Ti, let them stand." My parents asked to see me. I went to their house with a rule for myself. I would tell the story once. I would not answer. But what about questions? I would leave if they moved blame to Mia. We sat at the kitchen table. My father put his hands flat on the wood. My mother folded and unfolded a napkin. They asked me to tell them everything I had held back over the years because they had always said, "Keep peace." So I told them. I told them about the fundraiser money, the locker shoving, the car taken without asking, the shoplifting that was handled privately, the 2 women I knew who warned me that he would not leave women alone at bars, the crude messages sent to a friend, the night he kept pushing drinks on me and called me boring when I stopped. I kept my voice low and even. When I finished, my father said he should have listened sooner. My mother said she was sorry she had told me to ignore my eyes. Then she asked me what I wanted from them now. I told them I wanted them to stop defending him, stop inviting him when I am present, and stop asking me to bend. She said okay. My father said okay. They did not promise more than that. I did not host family events that summer. I went low contact. I set my phone to send certain numbers straight to voicemail. I kept my evenings quiet. I said no to quick coffees that were really invitations to sit through speeches about loyalty. My aunt tried to get my parents to host a reconciliation dinner. They told her no. She told the family that I had poisoned them. My father told her they had eyes. She said she would not speak to them again unless they made me apologize. My father hung up the phone and went out to mow the lawn. My mother told me that as if it were an everyday thing. That tone helped. Drama feeds on attention. It starves without it. Mia got better. She resumed classes. She took a self-defense course with Karen. She started walking around the block again at dusk when the air is comfortable. She used new rules for herself. She left rooms when she needed to. She set her own word for the boundary. I will not share it. It is hers. I kept checking in. We had early dinners. We did normal things. We did not review the night again and again. We let it move behind us. Brandon kept being Brandon. He posted online about haters. He posted photos with a new girlfriend and captions about finding someone who accepts you. He posted a picture of himself outside a bar that had banned him. He wrote that the bouncer had lied. He added a long line about weak men. People in the comments either cheered him on or ignored him. I was not in the comments. I was working, sleeping, and making our home steady. The public turn came in small pieces. In early fall, a relative who had kept quiet sent a note to the family group chat. He wrote that he had stood near the side door that night and had seen the whole thing, that Mia had said no, that Brandon had reached anyway, and that he agreed with the decision to remove him. No one argued with this relative. He is calm and patient, and he has no taste for family fights. People like him because he does not raise his voice. His message sat there without comment from my aunt. She left the chat a day later. Public confirmation can be one plain sentence from the right person. 2 months later, our church invited Adam's father to speak at a small men's group about how to handle conflict at events. He told the story in simple terms, without names. He said a young woman was scared, a man ignored her words, and the host removed him. He said other men should help hosts do that. Men listened. They asked questions about how to see trouble early. They practiced short sentences. When he came home, he told me some of the younger men had thanked him for giving them a clean script. That felt useful. A year passed. My aunt and I did not speak. She tried once to send a card through my parents that said I had broken the family. My mother did not deliver it. She called me and told me she had put the card in a drawer and that I could read it if I wanted or not read it at all. I told her not to save it. She threw it away. She did not announce that as a brave act. She just did it. At a summer picnic the next year, my aunt showed up without warning. She walked to my parents' table and started talking loud about forgiveness and embarrassment. My father stood and said one sentence, that Brandon had scared a young woman who had said no, that he had refused to leave, and that they would not be present at events where he was invited. He picked up the cooler and left. My mother followed. People stayed seated. The quiet after that was different from the quiet at my reception. It had weight and direction. I packed our plates and left too. It felt like the last time I would have to wonder which way my parents would go when pushed. Adam and I built our life with a few simple rules. We invite people who make rooms safe. We do not host people who ignore the word no. We do not argue about those rules. We tell them once, then we live them. Holidays are smaller. They are also lighter. We spend more time with the people who showed up when it counted. We see my parents in simple settings, coffee, a walk, a quiet dinner. They do not bring up my aunt. I do not bring up my aunt. They ask about Mia. I tell them she is doing well. Sometimes my mother looks sad, the kind of sad that comes when you stop pretending. I let her have that feeling without trying to fix it. Brandon faced his own results. He was banned from 2 bars and 1 event space. He was given a written warning at a job and then let go after another complaint. My aunt called each place and said he was being targeted. The managers told her it was policy. She posted online about cancel culture. I did not read it. I learned to keep my eyes on my life and off of hers. You cannot argue a person out of a story they need to keep for themselves. On the first anniversary of our wedding, we ate takeout at our own table. We did not talk about the incident. We did not review it. We watched a show and went to bed. The next morning, I met my mother for coffee. She asked about Mia. I said Mia was better. My mother said good. That was it. It was enough. I think about how to tell this story in a way that helps somebody else. It is not a story about a big speech. It is a story about a clear plan and small actions that match it. I told the venue what I wanted. I told my husband. I told my parents. I said the sentence when I had to. I blocked numbers that made my hand shake. I did not read messages written to make me feel guilty. I accepted that some people would call me cold. Others would call me strong. Neither label is the point. The point is that the room stayed safe and a young woman was not left alone. There were many times before my wedding when I could have made a scene and did not. I saved my energy for the day I needed it. When I used it, it worked. That is the part I hold on to. Boundary work is not a show. It is preparation. It is a calm sentence said at the right time. It is a door that opens and then closes. I do not need my aunt to change for me to feel okay. I need me to keep my rules, and I need the people closest to me to respect them. That is happening. My parents still backslide now and then in their language. Old phrases come out of their mouths for a second and then stop. My father corrects himself. My mother starts a sentence and then lets it go. That is enough. I can live with people who are trying. Mia's life expanded. She finished school. She started work at a clinic and volunteers on weekends at a youth program. She tells girls how to leave rooms, how to call for help, how to report what happened in clean words that are hard to argue with. She does not tell my wedding story there. She keeps it for herself and for us. She made a small garden on her balcony and sends me photos of tomatoes. They look like any tomatoes. That is what we wanted, normal things. When I look back, I do not see myself dropping a bomb, the phrase my aunt used in one of her messages. I see myself standing next to a scared young woman and telling a man to go. I see staff who knew their jobs. I see a door used for its purpose. I see a family that was forced to stop saying he didn't mean it and start asking, what do we do now? That is not a bomb. That is responsibility. Part 1. END. The week after my parents heard from my uncle about the job site, my mother called me again. She asked to meet at the park in the morning when it would be quiet. We sat on a bench near the path. She said she had asked my aunt a direct question. Did Brandon touch Mia's shawl? My aunt said no at first, then said yes, but that it was gentle. My mother told her that gentle is not a defense when someone has said no. My aunt started crying the way she cries when she wants control. My mother did not try to comfort her. She ended the call. That detail mattered to me more than any apology would have. It showed a new shape in my mother's choices. I decided to put my plan on paper for the long term. I wrote a short boundary letter and saved it to send whenever I needed to. It had only 3 lines. The first line said I would not attend any event where Brandon was present. The second line said I would not host anyone who defended him. The third line said I would not argue about either point. I did not look for fights. I waited for the next push. It came as they always did, in the form of a group message about a birthday dinner that would include everyone. I sent my 3 lines. I wished them a good night. I turned my phone face down and read a chapter of a book. The dinner happened without me. I went for a walk with Adam instead. I did not check social media for photos. I did not wonder if anyone missed me. I poured my attention into the sky at dusk and the sound of our shoes on the sidewalk. My aunt tried new routes. She reached out through cousins. She sent a message to my old email that I had not used for a decade. She wrote a Facebook post about a niece who broke her aunt's heart. People liked it. People scrolled past. None of that changed my kitchen or my job or my sleep. Old stories can make a lot of noise without touching your day if you let them stay on their own stage. My father showed me how his own story was bending. He is a quiet man who likes puzzles and small tasks that show completion. He started helping a friend at the community center with a safety program. They created a short card for volunteers who run events. The card had 6 sentences on it. Watch the corners. Check in with people who step away from the crowd. Intervene early. Believe the person who says they are uncomfortable. Remove the problem, not the person who names it. Support the host. He brought me one of the cards and put it on our fridge. It was not a grand statement. It was a step. This kind of step is what changed my family more than debates ever did. Brandon's life moved along its own track. He tried to organize a big birthday at a venue that had seen the video from my wedding because a staff member was a cousin of a friend. The venue asked him not to book there. He told my aunt this was my fault. She called the venue and said I had slandered her son. The manager explained that there was no slander because many guests had seen what he did and because they also had their own incident record of him from a previous event. My aunt called my mother and yelled. My mother told her to stop blaming me for the results of his behavior. My aunt hung up. She sent my mother a long message about blood. My mother did not respond. She deleted the message and went to her book club. In early winter, I received an email from a woman I did not know well, a friend of a friend who had been at the reception. She apologized for reaching out, but said she wanted me to know she had written a statement for herself about what she saw that night because she had her own family who likes to rewrite events. She attached the statement. It was plain and short. It said she saw Mia say no, she saw Brandon reach, she saw me ask for removal, and she saw the staff remove him. She signed it with her name and phone number in case I ever needed it. I may never use that statement for anything, but it sits in the folder with my boundary letter and gives me the same feeling that a spare house key gives. It is not about fear. It is about not being stuck outside if someone slams a door. Adam's family stayed steady. They sent us ordinary texts about groceries and small plans. My father-in-law started checking corners a little more when he worked events at church. He taught 2 young ushers to do the same. He told them to trust the first feeling that something is off and to step in before the problem gets loud. He kept his voice even when he taught, just like he kept it even when he told Brandon to leave. That calm has weight. It calms the room, too. The longer my aunt shouted online, the smaller her circle became. People have limited patience for drama that asks them to ignore what they saw. One of her own friends, a woman I had known since I was a kid, wrote her a private message that my mother later told me about. It said, "I love you, but he did this, and you are hurting yourself trying to say he didn't." My aunt did not change her view because of that message. People rarely do. But she stopped sending that friend links. She kept looking for an audience that would cheer for her. That is a hard way to live. In spring, my parents sold their house and moved to a smaller rental closer to town. This was not a statement about me, it was about their budget and their energy. Still, it changed the air. The new place did not have a big yard for barbecues. It did not have space for the old kind of parties where my aunt would take over the patio and the kitchen. My parents seemed easier there. My mother said her head felt quiet. My father said the walk to the store was good for him. Ordinary comments, but they sounded like people who had stepped away from a noise they had mistaken for music for years. I kept my side simple. I did my job well. I took walks. I made meals that we actually ate. I set an alert on my phone to remind me to check in with Mia once a week without making a big deal of it. I asked about her plants, her class, her new playlist for the commute. I did not make her recovery a project. I did not turn her into a symbol. I let her be a person who had a bad night and then had many normal ones. A year and a half after the wedding, my parents hosted a small dinner for my birthday. They invited Adam's parents, Karen, and Mia. They did not invite anyone from my aunt's branch. They did not mention why. It was understood. We ate good food and talked about the dog that keeps escaping on our street. No one brought up the past. The past does not need to be a guest at every meal. When the cake came out, my father made a short toast that said he was proud of me. He did not use bigger words. He did not wrap it in some lesson. He just said he was proud. I took the sentence and kept it. Later that summer, my aunt tried one more time to use a big event to pull control back. A cousin had a graduation party. My aunt wrote the host and said she would not attend if I was there because my presence caused scenes. The host wrote back that she wanted me there and that if my aunt decided to stay home, she would be missed, but the event would go on. My aunt posted a long note online about how people were choosing sides. The party went on. I sat near the food table with Karen and Mia and Adam. We watched the graduate open cards and fold them into a neat stack. It was a normal day. Normal is a gift you do not notice until you have had a run of not normal. As for Brandon, his story kept moving. One of the mothers of his children filed to modify support after he lost his job again. The court reviewed the record and told him to look for steady work and to complete a training about workplace conduct. He posted online about forced education. He took the class. He tried a new job. I heard those details the way you hear weather from a nearby town. It affects the roads, but you do not drive there. You may wonder if I ever missed my aunt. I miss the idea of an aunt who would have been on my side in the first place. I miss what she could have been, I do not miss the person who actually called my phone for years to say that I was too sensitive while her son upset rooms. I keep that line clean in my head so I do not drift back into the old script. 2 years after the wedding, Adam and I had a small gathering for our anniversary. We invited 8 people. We served food we could handle without a scramble. We put a note on the invitation that said the night would be a phone-free one so we could talk. People came and set their phones in a bowl by the door. No one seemed to mind. In the middle of the night, the venue manager from our wedding stopped by to drop off a vase we had left behind back then. She lives on our street and had found it while cleaning a storage shelf. She put it in my hands. She said, "You did right that night." Then she waved and walked home. It was a small, simple sentence from someone whose job is to see these moments. It went in the folder in my head where I keep the facts that hold me steady. There was no final showdown with my aunt. She did not admit anything. She moved farther out in the family map. She spent more time with people who liked loud stories. She sent long holiday letters about her son's progress. No one in my close circle read them. If my mother got one, she put it in a drawer and forgot it. My father started a volunteer hour every week at the community center to help set up chairs for meetings. He likes the work because the chairs face the same way when he is done. I sometimes go with him. We do not talk about my aunt there. We count chairs. Mia told me one afternoon that she had stood at a bus stop when a man came too close. She said she held up her hand and said, "Back up," and he backed up. She said she felt strong and normal. She said that the night at the wedding no longer lived in her stomach. It lived on the same shelf as other hard things she had handled. That sentence was the best outcome I could have hoped for. The last time my aunt crossed into our space was a mistaken reply, all in a family group message about a funeral. She wrote that she would not attend if the liar was there. She meant me. My father wrote back that he would be there and that I would be there if I chose, and that the funeral was not her stage. A few relatives liked his message. My aunt went quiet. The funeral was simple. We stood by a grave. We hugged people. We went home. Grief does not need side acts. People sometimes ask me how to prepare for a moment like the one I had at the reception. I tell them to write 3 things down before the event. First, the behavior that will cause you to act. Write it in plain words. Second, the action you will take, also in plain words. Third, who will back you up. Name them in your head. Tell them in advance. Then, put the paper in a drawer and enjoy your day. If you need it, you will know where it is in your mind. If you do not need it, you will have had a clean plan you never had to use. This is not about being on guard. It is about not being surprised by your own courage when the moment arrives. I do not think often about Brandon now. If I hear his name, it comes like a map pin, not a storm. If I pass a venue, I remember the manager's nod. If I stand near a door at a party, I look around the corners without thinking about it. That habit will likely stay with me. It is not fear. It is practice. It is how you keep rooms safe without turning every night into a patrol. When I tell this story, I do not use big words. A man tried to pull at a young woman's clothing after she said no. He was asked to leave. He refused. He was escorted out. An aunt tried to make the story about embarrassment. We told the story about safety. More people believed the safety story over time. That is the core. I have learned that you do not have to win everyone. You only have to be clear enough that people who want to do right know what to do. Adam knew, Karen knew, my father-in-law knew, the staff knew. Later, my parents learned. That is enough. On our 3rd anniversary, Adam and I sat on the porch and talked about a trip we might take. We did not revisit old fights. We looked forward. My phone buzzed once with a message from my mother. It said, "Proud of you again today." I wrote back, "Thanks, Mom." That was all. Short and simple is the new language in our family. It fits us. There is no prize for what I did. There is only the solid fact that I did it, and that the people near me know I will do it again if needed. That knowledge changes the air in our home. People relax when they know someone will make a call if a line is crossed. I carry that responsibility without drama. It is part of being an adult. It is part of being a host. It is part of being a person who has seen what happens when no one wants to act. If you are reading this because you are the person in your family who sees things clearly and acts, know this: you do not have to wait for permission. Decide in advance. Speak once. Use the door. Block numbers that want to drag you back into the same old scene. Build a small life where people feel safe. Let time do the rest. It will not fix everything. It will fix enough. I did not drop a bomb. I enforced a rule. I kept a young woman safe. I ended a pattern in the only room I controlled. I can live with that. I can live well with that.